The bond they shared changed everything. It showed all species that true strength came not from domination or fear, but from understanding and loyalty. The beast patrolled the stars, protecting worlds from dangers unseen, while Jackson taught generations how to listen to the wild and to the hearts of others, how to face fear with calm and bravery, how to turn enemies into friends. Species that once laughed at humans now sought their knowledge. They traveled across the stars to Earth to learn the ancient ways of taming not just beasts but fears and doubts. The Galactic Council transformed as well, learning that cooperation was more powerful than conflict, and that the galaxy was stronger united together. Jackson and the beast traveled far and wide, their presence a reminder that even the wildest and fiercest could be changed by patience and love. They faced threats and darkness, but their bond held strong and inspired many to believe in the impossible. The legend of the Tamer became a story of healing and hope, teaching that bravery is not always loud or violent, but often quiet, steady, and full of heart. The galaxy remembered the day when one human dared to reach out and changed everything forever. Jackson's journey was never just about taming a beast. It was about taming the fears and hatred within all beings. His legacy was a galaxy more peaceful, more united, and kinder, because one human believed in the power of trust. The stars shone brighter because of that belief, and the beast stood silently watching the skies, a loyal guardian beside the man who had earned its friendship and trust for all time. And so the story ends not with destruction, but with a promise that sometimes the wildest souls can become the greatest protectors. The end began, but soon turned. Hostile accusations flew, and voices rose. The Varnax faction revealed their plan to capture Jackson and destroy the beast, claiming it was for the safety of the galaxy. Before Jackson could react, guards surrounded him, but a sudden roar echoed through the station. The beast sensed the danger and broke free from its restraints. The ground shook as it charged into the chamber, smashing walls and scattering guards. Like paper, chaos erupted as the council members scrambled for cover, but the beast focused only on protecting Jackson. Its massive form shielded the human from attack, and its growls warned all to stay back. Jackson stood firm beside the beast, raising his hand to calm the storm. The two moved as one, a team forged in trust and battle. The betrayal had awakened something fierce inside the creature, something that no one could control. Council's plans crumbled in the face of the beast's rage and Jackson's courage, but the damage was done. Station was on fire, alarms blared, and emergency lights flashed red. The betrayal had shown the true danger of fear and mistrust as the beast led Jackson through the chaos. They encountered soldiers loyal to the council, ready to end them. Both fought with desperation and skill. Jackson using every trick from his training, and the beast using raw power and intelligence. The two escaped to a hidden hangar where a small ship waited. Jackson piloted it with steady hands as the beast stood guard. Stationed behind them burned a symbol of broken trust and shattered alliances outside. The galaxy watched in shock. The council's betrayal had backfired, exposing the weakness of old fears and the strength of a bond no one expected. Jackson looked at the beast, his friend and protector, knowing that the road ahead was still dangerous, but that together they could face whatever came next. Legend of the human who tamed the beast was no longer a story of hope alone, but a story of survival, betrayal, and the unbreakable ties that can form between the wildest creatures and the bravest hearts. Last command. The Galactic Hall was a scene of chaos and fire. The great chamber, once filled with proud leaders, now echoed with alarms and screams. Flames licked the walls, smoke twisted in thick black spirals that darkened the heavy sky. Outside, warships hovered ready to strike, and the galaxy held its breath. Jackson lay bleeding on the cold floor, surrounded by shattered glass and twisted metal. His breath was shallow, but his eyes burned with determination. Beside him the beast stood massive and fierce, its body scarred from battle, yet unyielding. Its eyes glowed with a fierce intelligence that no one had ever seen before. It growled low, warning the warships not to come closer, but the orders were clear: attack and destroy the human and his monster before they could become a threat. Jackson struggled to raise his hand, trembling as he reached toward the beast. The massive creature lowered its head, listening to the faint command in the human's voice. The council's forces prepared to fire, but the beast hesitated, its great bulk tense. Jackson's voice was weak but full of power. He spoke one final command, a word from Earth. A word of peace, a word that held the weight of trust and hope in a galaxy ruled by fear. Stop! The beast paused, its breath caught in the silence of that moment. The warships froze as if waiting for what would come next. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the beast obeyed it, lowered its massive claws, and sat down, the heat of its breath cooling. The warships powered down their weapons, and the tension lifted like a heavy fog. Jackson slowly stood, supported by the beast's giant frame. He looked around the burning hall and saw the faces of those who had once doubted him. Some were crying, others bowed their heads in respect. Even the cold machines recording the event seemed to pause, as if recognizing the moment. The beast lowered its head and nudged Jackson gently, a silent promise that it would protect, not destroy. That loyalty was stronger than rage. Leaders of the galaxy came forward hesitantly to speak with Jackson. The wounds of the past battles were deep, but a new path had opened. The human had shown that strength was not just in power or weapons, but in courage, compassion, and control. Jackson spoke of peace, of cooperation, of a future where species could live without fear of destruction, where even the wildest beasts could become protectors. The beast stood by his side, a symbol of that new hope, and the impossible bond between them became legend across the stars. As the fires died down and the warships retreated, the Galactic Council agreed to grant humans a seat at the table, not just as warriors but as teachers of strength born from understanding. The galaxy would never forget the day when a human gave one simple command and changed the course of history. The beast and Jackson became guardians of peace there. Story told in every corner of space, inspiring others to believe in the power of trust and friendship. The legend of the Tamer years passed like swift winds across the galaxy, but the story of Jackson Briggs and the beast never faded. It grew into a legend told in hushed tones around campfires on distant worlds and in grand halls of power. Across star systems, young and old learned of the human who dared what no other species would tame. The untamable. Jackson's name became a symbol of courage and hope. His statue stood tall in the galactic capital, a man reaching out to a massive beast, their hands almost touching, but the space between them filled with trust and respect. The beast, once feared as a creature of destruction, had grown older, wiser, and gentler. It no longer roamed wild. Instead, it protected the galaxy from threats beyond imagining. The beast was no longer just a creature, but a guardian, its presence calming entire fleets and cities alike. The bond between Jackson and the beast had taught the galaxy that strength was not about domination, but about connection and loyalty. On Earth, Jackson was celebrated not just as a hero, but as a teacher. He trained new generations of humans in the ancient arts of survival and understanding. He showed them how to listen to creatures great and small, how to face fear with calm and courage, and how to turn enemies into allies. Alien species who once mocked humans now sought their wisdom. They sent envoys to Earth to learn the secrets of taming wild forces and building peace where there was none. The Galactic Council changed forever, embracing cooperation over conflict. Beast often accompanied Jackson on missions across the galaxy, its massive form a reminder that even the wildest hearts could be softened by trust. Together they faced threats from rogue factions and ancient evils, but their bond remained unbreakable. The legend of the Tamer inspired countless stories and songs. It taught that bravery was not just in battle, but in understanding that even monsters could be changed with patience and love. The galaxy had learned a powerful lesson from one human who was crazy enough to try. Jackson's journey was not just about taming a beast, but about taming fear and hatred in the hearts of all species. The legacy he left was a galaxy more united, stronger, and kinder, because one human dared to believe in the impossible. Stars shone brighter because of that belief, and the beast watched over them, a silent guardian standing beside the man who had earned its trust and friendship forever. And so the tale ends not with destruction, but with hope and the promise that sometimes the wildest souls can become the greatest protectors. The legend of the tamer years drifted by like quiet stars across the endless sky. But the story of Jackson Briggs and the great beast grew louder in the hearts of many. Across distant planets and bustling cities and silent forests, the tale was told again and again of the human who dared to face what no one else would, and who won not with weapons, but with trust. Jackson's name became more than a name. It became a symbol of hope and courage. A towering statue stood in the heart of the galactic capital, showing a man reaching out to a massive creature, their hands close, but never touching, yet the space between them filled with respect and unspoken loyalty. The beast who had once been feared as a force of destruction was now a guardian watching over the galaxy with wise and steady eyes. But Jackson's calm held firm. His bond with the beast grew deeper as he learned its movements and moods like a dance no one else could follow. He spoke not just with words, but with actions, with respect and patience, with the steady heart of a survivor. The beast who once destroyed everything around it now allowed Jackson to walk beside it, to calm its rage, and even to play with its massive claws. Jackson had shown the galaxy that strength was not just about weapons or armor, but about courage and understanding. Outside the station, factions gathered, sending spies and assassins to end the humans' mission before it could succeed. But inside, Jackson and the beast had created something that would change everything forever. The council watched in silence, waiting for disaster or miracle, whichever came first, and Jackson whispered again, soft words from Earth, and the beast answered with a low growl that sounded like acceptance and maybe even friendship. The galaxy had never seen anything like this, and many wondered if they were witnessing the beginning of a legend. The first touch. The vast chamber where the beast dwelled was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the heavy breaths of the massive creature and the soft footsteps of Jackson Briggs as he moved closer than anyone had dared before. The cameras recorded every moment. The eyes of millions across galaxies watched in awe and disbelief. The beast's powerful body was covered in thick skin that shimmered with strange glow, and its claws scraped the metal floor, leaving deep grooves. But Jackson showed no fear. Instead, he walked steadily forward, his voice calm and steady, as if speaking to an old friend. In the quiet woods of Earth, Jackson knelt down slowly. The beast lowered its massive head almost cautiously, as if sensing the difference between a threat and a friend. The air was heavy with anticipation, and the council members held their breath, expecting the slightest mistake to bring disaster. But Jackson reached out his hand without hesitation and placed it gently on the beast's rough hide. The moment was electric. Something changed between the two, as if a silent promise passed through the touch. The beast's roar softened into a low rumble, vibrating through the floor like a deep, ancient song. Jackson closed his eyes and whispered soothing words in a language no alien understood, but somehow it reached the core of the creature's mind. The tension that had gripped the station for days began to ease, and for the first time the beast seemed calm and almost peaceful. Across the galaxy, discussions erupted from anger to wonder. The Scarith elders cursed the humans, saying it was trickery. The Xanthari scientists argued it was some unknown technology. The Dreven saw it as a threat to their dominance, but the truth was simple. Jackson had done something no one else dared to try. He had bridged the gap between predator and prey, between chaos and calm. Jackson stayed beside the beast through the endless hours of the night, the station's artificial lights casting long shadows as he learned its rhythms and moods. He spoke softly, telling stories of Earth, of survival and respect, of a bond forged not by force, but by trust. The beast responded with quiet movements, its massive tail brushing gently beside Jackson's legs, a sign of acceptance. Cameras caught the impossible scenes, a man and a monster sharing moments that defied the laws of the galaxy. The council grew silent, unable to deny the truth unfolding before them. Jackson was not just surviving, he was taming the beast. But the bond was not without challenges. The beast's anger still flared in sudden bursts, and Jackson had to remain vigilant, ready to calm the storm with words and gestures. The other species watching knew that the human's courage was matched only by his patience and understanding. Outside the station, political tensions rose. The council debated fiercely about what this meant. For the balance of power, the factions that feared human rise began sending spies and agents to sabotage the mission, but Jackson remained focused, his eyes never leaving the creature that had become his companion. Jackson's presence changed everything. Inside the station, the guards who once feared the beast now treated Jackson with a mixture of respect and disbelief. They watched as he fed the creature with his own hands, soothed it when it growled, and even played with its massive claws as if it were a giant wild animal from some ancient earth forest. The beast, who had been a symbol of destruction, was now a symbol of hope and possibility, that even the most dangerous creatures could be changed by courage and love. Jackson's first touch was more than physical. It was the beginning of a new era, a challenge to the old order, and a reminder that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or technology, but in its heart. As the sun rose over the dead moon orbiting the dark planet, the galaxy waited to see what would come next from the man who tamed the untamable, and the beast lay quietly beside Jackson, its breathing slow, and even a guardian, not a monster. Galactic outrage. The moment Jackson tamed the beast, the galaxy did not welcome it with cheers, but with fury. The Galactic Council chambers filled with heated voices and angry accusations. Representatives from dozens of species shouted over each other, demanding that the beast be returned to its cage, destroyed, or at least removed from human control. The air was thick with distrust and fear. They called the humans dangerous cheaters, claiming they used forbidden technologies or dark mind tricks to bend the beast to their will. The Scarith elders slammed their fists on the table, calling it an abomination. The Xanthari scientists insisted that no living creature could obey a human without some form of manipulation. The Driven threatened sanctions, and worse, they could not accept that a species they had always seen as primitive and weak had done what none of them dared to try. Jackson stood before the council, calm but resolute. He refused to hide behind weapons or threats. Instead, he told stories of Earth, of survival in harsh wildernesses, of taming wild animals, not with violence, but with understanding and respect. He challenged the council to look beyond fear and pride, to see what was possible when courage met compassion. The beast stood behind him, towering and powerful, its massive head lowered, as if pledging loyalty to the human who had earned its trust. The sight stunned many, but others saw it as a dangerous alliance that threatened the balance of power in the galaxy. Rumors spread fast that the humans had hidden technologies in their DNA that gave them control over beasts. Others whispered that Jackson was a spy sent to infiltrate and weaken the council. The tension grew, and factions formed, ready to act against the humans and the beast. Despite the outrage, Jackson continued to visit the beast every day, learning its language of movements and sounds, teaching it to respond to commands not with fear, but with choice. The bond between them grew deeper, a silent communication that no other species could understand. Outside the council, the galaxy waited with bated breath. Many wondered if this human had really tamed the untamable, or if disaster was just around the corner. The beast, who once roamed free and wild, now obeyed a single man, but that obedience was not slavery. It was something new and strange. As the council argued, Jackson received warnings from his own people. Earth diplomats pleaded for patience, but also urged caution. The council sent fleets to patrol the borders of the containment station, ready to strike if needed. Meanwhile, in the shadows, alien factions began plotting. They saw the beast as a weapon, a prize that could be stolen or destroyed before humans could claim their place among the powerful. Jackson knew the danger, but he refused to give up. He stood firm, knowing that what he was doing was bigger than politics or wars. It was about proving that humans were more than their history, more than the sum of their weapons. The beast responded to Jackson's presence with quiet loyalty, sometimes nudging him gently with its massive head, or lowering its bulk to let him climb atop like a rider on a wild horse. It was a sight no one had expected, and one that made many rethink their assumptions about strength and control. The Galactic Council remained divided. Some called for immediate attack, others for negotiation. But none could deny the strange respect growing between the man and the beast. Galaxy watched, waiting for the next move, hoping for peace, fearing war, and Jackson whispered again softly to the beast, words of trust and friendship, words that would change everything. The betrayal, the calm that had settled between Jackson and the beast was fragile like a glass sculpture on the edge of a cliff. The Galactic Council's anger had not faded. Instead, it had grown darker and more dangerous. Behind closed doors, secret plans were made to end the humans' mission once and for all. Faction within the council, known as the Varnak, saw Jackson as a threat to their power and their plans. They spread lies and rumors accusing the human of using forbidden techniques. They convinced some that Jackson was a spy sent to steal secrets, or worse, Jackson received an invitation from the council to attend a peace meeting deep within the station, a rare chance to negotiate and prove his loyalty. It was a trap, but the human accepted, knowing that refusing would only confirm their fears. As Jackson walked through the dim corridors toward the council chambers, his mind was sharp. He sensed the danger, but also knew that this was his moment to change minds or face death. The beast waited silently in its chamber, seemingly aware of the danger, but trusting Jackson's judgment. The bond between them was stronger than ever. But the shadows of betrayal loomed closer when Jackson arrived. The council members greeted him with fake smiles and cold eyes. The peace meeting. The beast breaks loose. The air inside the galactic containment zone turned red as alarms screamed across the steel corridors. The guards ran, the scientists screamed, the lights flickered, and deep inside the glass chamber, something massive moved. Slowly rising on four burning limbs, its breath steaming through layers of reinforced crystal, the beast known only as Specimen 99 had awakened. No species had ever come close to controlling it. It was not just dangerous, it was a force of chaos born from a forgotten planet lost in a dying star. It had no eyes, but it could see. No ears, but it could hear. No mercy in its blood, only rage and instinct and hate. Moment the security seal weakened, the beast roared a sound that shattered 5 nearby drones and bent the walls like paper steel. The Galactic Council had locked it in this station, orbiting a dead moon, far from any trade route for safety and silence. But now silence was gone, and safety had burned. Captain Elros of the Zenthari species tried to override the system, his voice shaking as he screamed into his communicator, warning all outer rings to evacuate. He had spent decades studying violent species, but nothing prepared him for this thing. Then came the footage that played across every galactic channel, the beast smashing its way through the corridor, crushing machines, eating through doors, melting armor with its acidic skin. Nothing could stop it. Bullets, plasma beams, even nuclear fields bounced off it like wind on rock. Species from all corners of the galaxy watched in horror as each second turned worse. Planets began closing borders, fearing the beast might find a way to escape the station and reach inhabited systems. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting, and for the first time in 100 years they declared an interspecies red-level threat. They spoke of the beast as a curse of the ancients, as a living extinction event. Some said it should have been destroyed from the start. Others argued it must be studied, but all agreed on one thing: no one should go near it. Then a message arrived. It was not from a warfleet, not from a research colony, not from a council member, but from a human, a single human named Jackson Briggs from Earth. He wrote in plain words that made no sense to anyone else. I think I can tame it. At first the council dismissed it as a joke, some glitch, some human prank. But the message came with coordinates and a signature verified by Earth Central. No military rank, no science background, just a former wilderness survivalist with a history of working with wild animals from Earth's deadliest jungles. A loud debate erupted across the star systems. Was this bravery? Was this stupidity? Or was this something else? The Zenthari laughed and called humans delusional. The Driven predicted his bones would be crushed within seconds. The Scarith refused to even acknowledge the idea, but the humans didn't back down. Another message arrived from Earth. Let him try with nowhere else to turn, and the beast growing more unstable by the hour. The council gave a bitter approval, not because they believed it would work, but because they had run out of ideas. If this human wanted to die, let him die. Maybe his death would buy them time. They scheduled the landing, a direct drop to the station, to the last safe corridor guarded by drones and cameras to record every second. As the human ship appeared out of hyperspace, silence fell across millions of watchers. Even the beast paused, as if sensing something inside. The tiny shuttle stood. A man, not wearing battle armor, not carrying weapons, just a thick rope wrapped around his shoulder, a large leather bag in his hand, and a calm look on his face. He looked around the chamber. As the docking bay hissed open, the heat from the damaged reactor pressed on his skin. The growls of the beast echoed ahead, and still he walked forward with steady steps. Jackson Briggs stepped out alone, one man on a station that had already claimed over 60 lives in 2 hours, and he smiled. The creature turned its massive head, its body almost too large for the chamber. The air rippled around it. From its heat and breath, the claws scraped the floor, carving deep lines like swords. Everyone watching held their breath, every camera locked on the human and the beast. And then Jackson spoke. His voice was not loud, not commanding, just calm and steady, like someone speaking to an old friend in the dark. Easy now, big fella, I ain't here to fight thee. Beast let out a growl that shook the floor, and yet the man did not stop. Galactic citizens across hundreds of worlds leaned in, unable to look away, because for the first time in history, someone was walking toward the monster, not to destroy it, but to tame it. That was only the beginning. The volunteer arrives. The council chambers were buzzing with disbelief and tension as the human small ship docked deep inside the containment station. The screens showed Jackson Briggs stepping down calmly, without armor or weapon. The other species muttered among themselves. How could a human survive here, let alone tame the beast? The Dreven representatives exchanged worried looks. The Xanthari scoffed, and the Scarith simply growled, but none could look away from the live feed. Jackson moved forward, carrying only his rope and a bag. The corridors were filled with the echoes of the beast's heavy breathing and the distant crash of its movement. It seemed impossible that a single human could stand here alone, surrounded by death and destruction. He paused for a moment, letting the silence settle around him. He whispered softly words no one understood, but they sounded like a song, a lullaby from Earth's wild forests. Something about his voice was different, calm, steady, not aggressive but not fearful either. The beast growled louder this time. It slashed the wall with its claw, and sparks flew. Jackson took one step forward, his eyes locked on the massive creature, as the beast roared. A blast of heat swept the corridor, but Jackson did not flinch. The council members, watching through cameras, shook their heads, convinced this human would be gone in seconds. The camera zoomed in on Jackson's hand, pulling out the rope, slowly coiling it, as if preparing for a simple task. Then Jackson did something unexpected. He dropped the rope on the floor and stepped closer, still speaking in that soft, strange language. The beast paused, as if confused. Its massive head tilted slightly, and its body tensed, but it did not attack. Jackson moved with deliberate calm, like a hunter who knows the forest. He took a small pouch from his bag and scattered a few pieces of dried meat toward the creature. The beast sniffed the air, then lunged forward, but only to snatch the food. The moment seemed fragile, like a thread holding back a storm. The council members leaned in on their chairs, eyes wide with shock. Could this human be calming the uncontrollable beast with nothing but patience and some food? Jackson reached out his hand slowly. The beast's head lowered, as if testing the water. The thick, acidic skin shimmered under the lights, but Jackson's fingers did not hesitate. They touched the rough surface, and the beast did not pull away. On board ships orbiting the station, soldiers whispered prayers, and aliens cursed their leaders for allowing this madness. But the cameras captured the impossible bond forming. Jackson whispered to the beast, softly telling stories of Earth, of rivers, of trees, of animals tamed by humans over thousands of years of struggles and love. The beast seemed to listen, as if it understood the words beyond language. The council members debated furiously. They sent messengers demanding Jackson be pulled back or ordered to use force. But Jackson smiled and said something no one expected. I'm not here to fight, I'm here to learn. The station trembled as the beast relaxed its stance, and Jackson sat down on the cold floor, reaching for his bag once again. The cameras captured every second of this strange moment, when the fiercest creature in the galaxy faced a human without weapons, without armor, but with courage and calm. The creature let out a low rumble, almost like a purr, and Jackson laughed softly. The tension on the station began to shift from fear to wonder, from hatred to curiosity. On Earth, millions watched in silence, praying and hoping. The human was doing what no one else dared. But outside the station, dark ships gathered quietly, listening to the council debates and watching the strange human with growing hatred and fear. Theirs was a galaxy built on power and fear, and no one wanted a human teaching a beast to listen still. Jackson sat patiently on the floor, his hand resting lightly on the beast's massive head, the only sign of trust in a world that had forgotten what trust meant. Beast's breathing slowed, and its eyes, though blind, seemed to focus on Jackson with a new kind of awareness. The impossible was happening. A wild, unstoppable monster was being tamed by a human who understood fear and respect and strength. As hours passed, the council agreed to give Jackson time to prove himself, but threats of war hung heavy in the air. Many believed the beast would turn on him at any moment, or that the humans were hiding some dark trick.